As I come here in commemoration, not for show, Selma is a reckoning. The right to vote, to have your vote counted, is the threshold of democracy and liberty. With it, anything's possible.
That is Joe Biden marking Bloody Sunday. I was combining those two things there. Visiting Selma just this weekend to mark the 50th anniversary of the famous march there, which is great. And he used this speech, by the way, to call for legislation to make sure that people have, both in the letter of the law and in reality, the ability to vote without, being hampered and all that. And that is all great. We call for that too. But I will also remind people that they had power for a couple of years and they did talk about doing this sort of stuff. They talked about passing, for instance, the Freedom to Vote John R. Lewis Act, which combined a few different voting rights pieces of legislation and would have done a bunch of great stuff like requiring states to offer online and election day voter registration, automatic voter registration generally through the DMV, setting a 15-day minimum for offering early in-person voting and making mail absentee voting available to all voters. The issue was that it was shot down because every Republican voted against it and Democrats weren't able to convince Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin to go along with changing Senate rules to make a small little change to the law like allowing people to vote. And so that is not individually explicitly on Joe Biden, but he is the leader of the Democratic Party. And it didn't feel to me at least like there was a lot of pressure being put on Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin to make this happen. In any event, the result is that after 2 years, we're in the same sort of situation, or actually in some states we're in a worse situation because they've passed a bunch of voter suppression legislation, particularly in the wake of the Senate losses for the Republicans in Georgia. And so he's calling for the right things, but I would have loved to have seen the Democrats actually accomplish some of this when they had more power than they do now. But anyway, Imara, what do you think about all this?
Well, first of all, I mean, Joe Biden just seems to have taken some multivitamins recently. I mean, like in that and the State of the Union. I mean, like, Joe's got some pep. But it's also the fact that I think that one of the things that is really apparent is that the two members of the Senate that you mentioned are essentially immune to pressure. I mean, so much so that even whatever pressure Senator Sinema came under was too much. And she's effectively left the Democratic Party or is not caucusing with the Democratic Party. So I think that one of the problems is that when you have such closely divided legislators, small numbers of people make a big difference. And those people wield a different type of power. And, I don't know how you get around that. I even know that, Senator Sinema's constituents were up in arms and protesting and it didn't matter. So what do you do to people who are immune to pressure? I mean,
it's tough.
It's tough. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously I don't know the answer to that. Generally, I don't know the answer to virtually anything. I admit that openly. What I would want to see, at least as a start, and I'm not saying this because I think it would necessarily work, but a ton of extended pressure on them from the president, from the leadership of the party might well not work because Kyrsten Sinema is fundamentally corrupt and she doesn't even feel like she needs to pretend that this is a thing where she's representing her constituents. But at least then it would be reassuring to the American people that he and the other Democrats tried as hard as they could. If you can't deliver the results, at least make sure that people know that you tried as hard as is possible. And having them over for some White House lunches, like, yeah, maybe that was, the old college try, but that doesn't scream fight at all costs energy to me. And again, it's probably not a solution. Sorry, continue.
But one of the things, so I thought about this recently again, because this subject did come up around Selma. And I said, okay, that makes you feel great for the day or two or weeks that it happened. And then if you do that and you still lose, you look weak. And you're actually in a weaker position and they're in a stronger position. So if you put all this pressure on them, you're really doing it. And then ultimately your pressure collapses and they still do what they're going to do. You actually are in a weaker position. And I think that that's probably from a Washington, D.C. insider political standpoint, which the White House is, that probably is a part of their calculation, is that like they're going to, if they either, because you need both of them, right? So if either one of them goes and does whatever they're going to do, then you might be in a worse position. So again, I think I'm pretty sure that's probably a part of the argument.
Yeah, you might be right. It is difficult. I certainly am not trying to. A lot of people on the internet will look into a camera in a show like this and tell you that everything's super simple. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, it's obviously the stakes are about as high as they could be.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.